Hello everyone, this is Matt from Real World Review, and today we're going to be replacing the front glass and the front OLED on the Google Pixel 6. So the tools you're going to need are going to be a razor blade, a plastic pick, a playing card, and some heat. You'll also need some glue as well as some clamps to put the screen down, and you'll actually need a cable so you can plug it into the computer to program that fingerprint scanner, assuming it works. You'll see later. So the first thing we're going to do obviously is heat up the screen, just get like a kind of base heat around the screen. And what we're going to do is use a razor blade to get under that plastic frame in between the metal frame and use a pick to cut through the adhesive. I recommend doing this only if you ordered the one with the frame, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. So if you didn't order it with the frame, this video might not help with that. But ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to go around the edges and cut through the adhesive and lift the screen with the frame out of the phone. Generally it's pretty easy once you get started. The screen does lift over to the left, so be careful a little bit there. But what we're going to do is cut through the adhesive around all four of the sides, and then we're going to lift it up over to the left like this. Next you want to grab something that will lift this little screen cover over. I use the razor blade, but I highly recommend using something like tweezers or maybe something that's made out of plastic. Since I did use metal, it did bend a little bit, but you can bend it back to normal. Then there are a lot of components in here, so you want to be careful when you remove the screen, but I recommend using the bottom portion and kind of lift it up like this. Or you can just carefully lift the screen off without anything, but again, there are a lot of components in here and you don't want to damage any of those. So the next thing we're going to do is ultimately remove all the adhesive that's around the edge, or at least flatten it to the point where when we apply the glue, it doesn't have an uneven coat. This isn't really too major if you're using glue like I'm going to, but if you're using adhesive, I highly recommend making sure that it's flat so then there's no lifted areas. But ultimately, it's a pretty long process and that glue is kind of stuck on there, so you just have to carefully remove it and it will take some time. I recommend using a pick if you have like a sharp edge of a pick, but I use a razor blade because it is easier. Again, your ultimate goal is to go around the phone and make sure that the adhesive is either flat or removed if you're going to use adhesive. If you're going to use glue, again, you could just flatten it and it should be fine. Then the next thing that we're going to do, I did a Google Pixel 6 Pro and it came with this, but on the Google Pixel 6, for some reason, it didn't come with a fingerprint scanner. So what we're going to do is we're going to heat up the sensor area. Obviously you want to be careful because you want to just heat up the adhesive and not the actual sensor, and use a playing card like this to kind of loosen up that adhesive. And you want to go pretty much to where the screen cable is and loosen up that adhesive. Then you want to carefully unplug it from the phone and it should kind of lift up like this. Just make sure when you take this off that the sensor is still intact and it's not cracked anyway. If it is cracked, your fingerprint definitely will not work. Then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to remove this little piece. For some reason it's in there. I don't know why. And then we're going to plug in the fingerprint scanner like this. So then you can kind of line it up properly. And it should just line up properly. Hopefully it works, although sometimes it will not work. So the way that the fingerprint scanner works is if you buy the screen with the fingerprint scanner attached, you can actually program that one with the actual Pixel programming website. But if you transfer the fingerprint without breaking it, obviously, you can put that into the new screen and then you won't have to program it at all. If it's still not working when you put it on there, it's just because you didn't line it up and you have to line it up properly. I highly recommend doing this before gluing the screen on, just to make sure that you don't mess up. And then mine didn't come with this little cover, so I'm just going to take this off and set it on the new screen. I don't know if it's entirely needed, but just in case, I'm going to put it on there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a little bit of glue. You want to use less than what I did because I did get some on the sensor and I had to take it off. But ultimately you want to make sure it's going around the edges so then it's sitting flat and it's not in front of the actual sensor. Next we want to test the screen to make sure that it's working. So we want to plug it in. We want to put that little cover over the plug and then we can test it. And everything seems like it's working fine. Obviously I can't really test the fingerprint scanner and technically it shouldn't work right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it over to the side like this, apply some glue, and then we're going to flip it over a little bit and apply glue on the other side. Remember this screen does come with the frame, so make sure that your screen has that little plastic frame so it keeps everything in place, including that front camera. Everything will kind of click in and you got to set it down. Just make sure it's fairly flat. If there's any glue that leaks out, you can clean it up later. Or if you have any rubbing alcohol, you can put some on a paper towel and kind of just clean that off. But ultimately what you want to do is you want to put clamps around the corners. I recommend putting them on 4 corners and then 2 on the middle area like this. Next, you want to let this sit for a couple hours to make sure that the glue dries. But in the meantime, what we can do is we can try and program that fingerprint scanner. So what we want to do is put it into fast boot mode, which is volume down and power button while it's powered off, obviously. And then we can plug it into the computer. And then what you're going to do, I'm going to leave the link in the description below, but what you're going to do is scroll down here and it'll say install fingerprint calibration software. And then you want to connect the phone, obviously, and you want to click connect the phone. And it should show up right here. You can see it says Pixel 6. Then we'll click connect, and then we can click install software. And see where it says downloading software, it says couldn't find the unique calibration software for this device. That is an actual glitch, and I don't really know a way to actually fix this. Apparently you can do a factory reset, though I don't recommend doing that, and this is not my personal phone, so I'm not going to do that anyway. But technically you go through this and it's supposedly supposed to work, though I've heard some people saying that you have to run this program a few times successfully to get the fingerprint scanner working. So yeah, it's kind of a mess, and I would kind of assume that your fingerprint's not going to work, but if it does work, that's pretty awesome. Either way, you want to let this sit for about 2 hours, and then you can take the clamps off and kind of clean up the glue around the screen like I'm doing right now. It's pretty easy to take off. You can use something like a plastic pick, and it should come off fairly easily, or you can just use your fingers. That also works. But that's pretty much it. Hopefully this video helped you out. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section or message me on the social media listed above. And as always, thanks for watching.